Just like to start by asking you some general questions about your background, your parents. Were your parents from Birmingham?
Yes, and that's Catherine Burks Brooks.
Catherine Burks Brooks. Okay,
Yeah.
and that's important. That's important because your classmates would say Catherine Brooks. Who was
was that?
Yeah. So that's very important. So both of your parents were from Birmingham?
Now, well, they're not originally from Birmingham,
Yeah.
but they're originally from Alabama. They came out of Selma, not really Selma, but Saunders, Alabama.
Okay.
Right.
Both were from Sardis?
That's right.
Okay. How many brothers and sisters do you have?
One brother and 4 sisters.
One brother and 4 sisters. He must have had a time.
Oh yes, and I was kind of like on the end,
Oh yeah. Were you
the youngest girl.
You the youngest girl?
That's right, and so I had to really fight.
Okay. Well, that may then attribute have something to do with your activities in the movement that we'll get to talk about a little bit later.
Could have. I never really thought about that, but that could have, because the one that I was next to was something like 8 or 9 years older, and so they were just going to push me around.
Okay. All right.
But
Well,
that didn't happen.
didn't happen. I can tell. I can tell. So, did you then were born here in Birmingham?
Yes.
Okay. Where did you start elementary school?
Shields.
Shields.
Alberta Shields
Okay.
in East Birmingham, what we call East Birmingham at the time.
Okay. Tell me just a bit about your parents. Where did they go to school? And how much schooling did they have?
Well, my father had virtually no schooling.
Mhm.
They came, as I said, out of Sardis, and my mother went to the 3rd grade.
Okay. And what kind of work did they do?
My father worked for the Alabama Byproduct,
All right.
okay, and he was a machine operator.
Okay.
And my mother was a wool and silk presser.
I see. So she worked inside and outside the house.
Yes.
She kept you guys, and then she. Okay. Well, that's. So you had a hard-working family.
Yes.
Then, as you grew up, what do you remember about your neighborhood, the part of the neighborhood that you grew up in when you were in elementary school?
Well, I remember that seemed as if we all cared about each other. It was a working, poor community,
Right.
but it was a working community.
Yeah.
And if my parents was not home, I knew where to go. Just a couple of doors down or next door to wait until my mother got off if I was, afraid to go in the house. And that was one thing that really kind of stuck with me, that we were seeing after each other.
What kind of occupations did people have in the community?
Most of the men, as I can remember, either worked for the Alabama Byproduct or Stockham Vale, and this was on Tallapoosa Street, in East, we say East Birmingham or Greenwood. With L&N, I think. And L&N Railroad, or McLeod's.
What's McLeod?
Well, that was a factory, I don't know, I think they made pipes or something at McLeod's in Tarrant City.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there are a lot of pipe factories
Yes.
out in the area, so that's probably what it was. Where did you go to high school?
I went to high school at Parker.
Parker High School.
Oh, yes.
Where is that? I've heard of that little school someplace.
Little school, at that time, we were I think was the largest black school in the country. That's right, the Thundering Herd.
I think I've heard something about that. But we didn't pay much attention to you people.
Oh.
Were you active in extracurricular activities at Parker?
Yes, I was in the band and a number of other clubs. As a matter of fact, I never forget Mr. Caswell used to call us his 3 blackies. I was a majorette.
Oh, is that right?
That's right, and even at our black high school at that time, we were just letting black girls become majorettes. And I was one of the first black majorettes at Parker.
You were one of the first black, phenotypically black majorettes.
At a black school.
At a black school.
Color black, what I meant.
That's right. What was that like? Did you have any difficulty as a result of having dark skin?
Yes.
Tell me, how did that operate in a black setting?
Well, it's been years since I thought about that. It was always a challenge. It was always a fight. And I always was willing to fight the fight. and kept my head high, even though, you know, we were dark.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, what was a little saying that I think they used to say,
If you're brown, stick around.
yes, if you're brown, now if you're light first, if you're brown, stick around, if you're black, get back. It was something like that.
Right.
And so I was determined not to get back.
If you're white, you're right.
If you're white, you're right. That's right. If you're brown, stick around. If you're black, get back.
Right.
And so I was determined not to get back.
So you put up a defense
That's right.
against that whole idea.
I did, and I built a wall, which is a mess too, because you eventually have to tear it down.
What do you mean? You built a wall and then you eventually
Because
have
you
to
become
tear it down?
hard, you become tough. You know, you're always waiting for something. You're always waiting for a fight.
And you said it as a result of this attitude of people looking at black as being negative.
Right.
You put up a defense.
Right.
And then you solidified that defense by fighting when necessary.
That's right.
Well,
And then sometimes it may not have been necessary to fight, but because of that, you think it is necessary to fight.
so in effect, it becomes necessary all the time to fight.
That's right.
In your mind.
That's right. As a one example that I think of right now, I think we were in Cleveland, some parts of Ohio, and we went to this restaurant, and they told us to go upstairs. And so, you know, right away, we're thinking that they want us to go upstairs because, you know, we're black. And so we're going to put up a fight. No, it was no seats downstairs. And so it's that type of a thing.
Right, yeah. So that creates difficulties from both sides.
Right.
Yeah. What was it like being one of the first, you know, end quote, black majorettes? What kind of impact did that have upon the rest of the school? Having actually a black, and you say there were 3 of you.
Yeah, it was 3 of us.
Out of how many? Maybe 8 or 10?
Oh, no, it was more than that. I believe we had 3 lines. So if we had 3 lines, I believe we had 3 lines of majorette, and we may have had 6 in a line. So that would give us
18.
something like that.
Yeah.
We either
So
had 3 lines
it
or
was
2
a
lines.
lot.
It was something like that.
Okay.
Okay.
And what did your parents say about this kind of activity? Did they have any idea that this was happening at your school, that as a result of your being dark-skinned, that you had to put up with the kinds of things that you're talking about?
No, I don't think they really had. If they did, they never expressed it.
But it's well known in the school.
Yes, of course, it was well known in the school, and it could have been in the community. But as far as my parents, you know, talking about it, me talking to them about it, no. But I know I just can remember my mother was always willing to, you know, work from almost kin to kin to get me the things to measure up to be in these type of activities, and I can't.
Yeah.
And she used to tell me that I came feet first, and I just been moving ever since.
How did the teachers treat you in that regard? Were there any differences between the way the teachers actually treated light-skinned children versus dark-skinned children?
I can't pinpoint any particular teacher, but seem as if the lighter-skinned children seem to received a better, what we would say, breaks, whatever you want to call it. I can't pinpoint any. Yes.
What do you remember most about Parker?
Well, we would say the band. I enjoyed the band, and I remember my government teacher, and I can't remember her name, but I had a lot of respect for her, and of course that was in the 12th junior and 12th senior. One thing stuck with me: we did have Black history, and I learned here recently that we no longer have that in our school, which I think is a shame, and that was really helpful. And I remember Major Brown. He also taught me history, yes. He was very, very tough, and he was also the football coach.
Right. That's right.
And I remember once he threatened to pull the top of my hair out if I skipped a class once, and I never skipped another class. You know, I actually believed he was going to do that.
Well, most people believe what Major Brown said at that time, I believe.
Yes, he made a believer out of me.
Absolutely. After you finished high school, what did you do?
I went to Tennessee State in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay. Why did you decide to go to Tennessee State?
Well, I had a girlfriend in the neighborhood, Joyce Parker, and Joyce was going to Tennessee State at that time. And I was thinking about a number of other schools, but I think that was probably one of my main reasons for deciding at Tennessee State, because she seemed to have loved it and was having a nice time. And and I wanted to get away from home, too. I wanted to go off.
Be independent.
That's right.
Yes, yes. Well, at Tennessee State, were you involved with the band?
Well, you wouldn't believe it. At Tennessee State, I was too dark. But of course, you know, things have changed. Now, no, I was not a majorette at Tennessee State. They were what we called at that time high yellow.
And there were no dark majorettes at the time at Tennessee
No.
State. Was that, did someone verbalize that to you, or was that just something that was understood?
It was understood, but someone did later. One of my close girlfriends who was involved in the Freedom Ride with me, Lucretia Collins, which was a majorette also, but she was a little lighter. And we talk about it now.
The majorettes actually selected the people who would come aboard?
No, oh no, that was the band teacher.
The band teacher decided.
And as a matter of fact, I even had a letter from Mr. Caswell to the band instructor there.
About other activities at Tennessee State, I know you became involved. How did you get involved with the movement?
Well, my boyfriend was involved with the movement. He had been trained, Curtis Murphy. He had been trained to participate in the sit-in movement. And so they was holding their meetings down near Fisk. And we always had a running thing with the girls at Fisk, and so I said, I just better go down here and see what's going on. And so that's how I got involved.
So you become involved as a result of protecting your turf.
I don't know if I put it that strongly, but...
Well, tell me, what was your first involvement?
My first involvement must have been at a sit-in there at one of the lunch counters. I think it was some hamburger place. I don't even remember. White Castle. I think it was a White Castle or something like that.
How did that get started? What precipitated your desire to go and sit in at White Castle?
Well, of course, we could not eat there, and they had been participating. They had been learning the nonviolence way of doing this, and I've been talking with him, and they were recruiting students to go.
So he recruited you?
Yes.
To come. And were you trained, or did you simply go and sit in?
I think I must have got my training later. I think I was just trained by him as to
what you should do and what you should not do.
Yes.
Do you actually remember that first time that you went to sit in? How did it feel? I mean, what was going through your mind?
Well, I don't know if I actually remember the very first time, but I do recall some of the times of just saying, okay, now am I going to be able to not do anything if someone spit on me? And I think that was my constant thing of just being cool if someone, but it never happened though.
No one ever
No.
accosted you. Were you ever arrested there?
Yes, I was arrested in Nashville.
In Nashville. What were the circumstances of the arrest? How did it happen?
This was at one of the lunch counters. I don't remember which one, but it was at one of their lunch counters. Of course, the policeman came in and asked us to leave. And then if you don't leave, then you're under arrest. And so, of course, we didn't leave, and so we were taken to jail.
How long were you in jail?
I believe it was just overnight.